And as usual, my hair looks terrible, but that's beside the point. So I just want to start off this video by saying, now don't grab the pitchforks. I'm not a big Doctor Who fan. I don't hate it, and the bits I have seen I found to be very entertaining. But it's not one of those shows that I've committed myself to watching because I have lots of other things to do. But it is a fan presence that I'm aware of and that I know of. Gosh, that sounded terrible. But anyway, I saw this article talking about why does the showrunner of Doctor Who have to be British? And so I read the article, and it wasn't terribly deep. They brought up all the points that fans usually bring, and I guess this was the whole point of the article, that those points were very shallow, and I agreed with them. It was one of those things of like, really, this is the best arguments y'all can come up with? Now here's the thing, like, again, I don't have a dog in this fight because I'm not part of the core fan base. So some people might even be saying then, well, why are you participating in this conversation? Well, I think because I'm not such a huge fan. Again, nothing wrong with the show, but I can maybe bring an outsider's perspective. And to bring a point, I have to parallel another fandom and another discussion. So, slight divergence. So, when Americans first started attempting to make quote-unquote anime, a lot of people didn't care for that. Like, there were some who did, some who didn't. And we begged the question, is this really anime? Is this really manga? And there was something about it that made it so different. It could look exactly like it, but something was missing. And even with stuff like the Castlevania series and all the things that studio has done, it can look so much like it, but there is something different. And I really think, you know, if we're talking about a show that's British, if we're talking about a show that's originated in a particular country or culture, we have to take into consideration how much of an effect does the culture have on the overall experience, on the aesthetic, the sensibilities of where it's coming from. I suppose that would be the strongest case. Like, one of the things that people like about Doctor Who is how British it is. Kind of like how much people like Harry Potter because of how British it is. And J.K. Rowling, famously, in the first slate of movies, she eased up on, you know, Johnny Depp, but he's Johnny Depp. She famously wanted only British actors in those first movies. And so, because she wanted the culture reflected. And it kind of goes, another good example is Denzel Washington when he was making his movie Fences, and the idea was brought up of like, why couldn't a white guy direct this movie? And he said, well, it's not about race, it's about culture. And he said, you know, Martin Scorsese could probably direct this movie very well, but there's an insight into the culture he would lack that the movie needs in order for it to be fully informed. So yeah, from that I think that is perhaps the best argument for why a Doctor Who showrunner ought to be British. Now, I think some people, if they've gotten this far, at some point they might have already thought of this argument, and I am going to give this caveat to them. So one of the things I think we all forget, and I would say to the people who believe the showrunner has to be British, I would bring this up. Terry Gilliam and Richard Lester. Now, if you do not know who those people are, you know, don't watch the rest of the video, or, you know, watch the video because I'm going to tell you who they are. So Terry Gilliam was a member of Monty Python's Flying Circus, and he was a key aspect of the show's aesthetic, its sensibilities, its overall approach. And yeah, Monty Python would not be what it is without him. Another guy, Richard Lester, he did a show called The Goons, which was somewhat of a predecessor to Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and it was a favorite of the Beatles, which is why they chose him to direct A Hard Day's Night. And I think he made some other movies with them, but the caffeine I've taken hasn't fully kicked in yet. So yeah, they were Americans, and yet they had something that caused them to coalesce and complement the British sensibilities, the culture. So that's my comment on all that stuff of, you know, why the showrunners have to be British or don't have to be. I think ultimately, though, you know, people do like shows for a certain reason, and you do run the risk. I think this has been said to death by so many people. And one of the things you always have to do is you always have to remember, like, okay, why do people like this in the first place? And, you know, how do we maintain that, but also, you know, steer it in a new direction while, like, adhering to the thing that made it great? You know, Kevin Feige has been doing that with the Marvel movies, the MCU movies, for like a bit over 10 years. Yeah, way over 10 years. But anyway, as of this video. And yeah. But anyway, just some thoughts. I think as long as the person is complementary to the property, there's no reason why they shouldn't. But I don't know, I was just playing devil's advocate for the people who say they have to be British. And it's like, there are better arguments to be made, and I offered them, but even then, with the best argument, the Steelman argument that I could come up with, there is still a flaw with it. So just my 2 cents. Have an absolutely super day. Bye.